Good morning, students. Welcome back to Daily Current Affairs Analysis by Civic Center IAS, where we shall discuss important relevant articles from the UPSC CSE prelims perspective. Displayed are the topics which we'll be discussing today. Well, let's begin. The first article says that a new study found that the tiger population in India has been increased by over 30% in the past 2 decades. So in this context, let's talk about the Indian tigers and also see the population trends. See, the tiger, which is scientifically called the Panthera tigris, is the India's national animal, which symbolizes the strength, courage and conservation. Significantly, they play the vital role as the apex predators in maintaining the ecological balance of the forest ecosystem. Now, let's know about the conservation status of the tigers. Remember that they are placed in the endangered list in the IUCN Red List. Further, they are placed in the Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act. Lastly, in CITES, they comes under the Appendix 1. So, you can see here, they are given the highest level of protection. And also, India is home to 75% of the global tiger population, as this can be understood with the population trends. See, in the year 2006, India has 1,411 tigers. Further, in the year 2010, it has been increased to 1,706 tigers. And next, in the year 2014, the tiger population was 2,226 tigers. And significantly, in the year 2018, you can observe it has been increased to 2,967 tigers. Lastly, an All India Tiger Estimation Report 2022 tells that there are 3,167 tigers in India. And know that the highest population is in the state of Madhya Pradesh, followed by the Karnataka and Uttarakhand. Now, further moving on, let's see the major steps taken to ensure the survival of these majestic creatures. First is the land sparing and land sharing. See, around 85% of the breeding populations thrive in protected areas devoid of the humans. And tigers disperse through the corridors and sustainable land use practices coexisting with 66 million people. Further, there are strong legislative frameworks like the Wildlife Protection Act, Forest Conservation Act, and also the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Lastly, let's also see some of the socio-ecological factors. See, the economic prosperity and cultural values has significantly contributed to the tiger conservation, and also the lower dependency on forest and the better socio-economic conditions have improved the relocalization rates. However, regions with poverty and armed conflicts, like example Naxal affected areas like Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand, showed the tiger population decline. Now, let's move to the next article. The next article says that a first of its kind study commissioned by the Delhi government has detected microplastics in the groundwater samples across the capital. Now, in this context, let's talk about the microplastics. See, know that microplastics are defined as tiny plastic particles smaller than 5 millimeters originating from the breakdown of larger plastics or the products specifically designed to be small like the microbeads. But what is the source of this microplastics? See, there are two kinds of sources. See, first is the direct source, where breakdown of larger plastic particles is the source. Then we have the indirect sources, where other commercial products comes. For example, even the personal protective equipments, that is the face mask made up of polypropylene, is also one of the source. Now, where are these microplastics present in the environment? See, they are ubiquity. That means they're found anywhere. They're found even in the marine species, drinking water and foods like the salt, honey, and also in the marine organisms. Further, the exposure also occurs through the inhalation of the air. Now, let's see how they impact the human health. So, studies show that micro and nanoparticles can reach the vital organs including liver, spleen, heart, lungs, brain, and even it crosses the blood-brain barrier, kidneys, and also the reproductive organs. And as many microplastics contain harmful chemicals like the phthalates and bisphenol A, they disrupt the endocrine functions also. Also, it has many negative effects on mobility, reproduction, and also the development. Further, inhaling or ingesting these microplastics can cause the cellular damage, potentially leading to conditions like the cancer over time. And these microplastics can also absorb toxins such as the heavy metals and organic pollutants, raising the risk of poisoning as they accumulate in the body. Also, they transfer the toxins through the food chain from invertebrates to higher trophic levels. Now, moving ahead to the next article, it says that output in India's 8 core infrastructure sectors hit a 7-month high in December, even as year-on-year growth moderated a tad from upgraded 4.4% in November to 4%. Now, in this context, let's talk about the core sector growth and other related aspects. Now, first, what is the core sector? See, as the name suggests, the core sectors of an economy refers to the key industries that have a major impact on the economy. And in India, 8 core sectors significantly influence various other industries and the overall industrial growth, such that there are 8 core sectors of the Indian economy. First, electricity, and the other, steel, refinery products, crude oil, coal, cement, natural gas, and lastly, the fertilizers. And these 8 sectors collectively contribute 40.27% to the index of industrial production, which is a measure of the industrial growth. And also further know that there is index of 8 core sectors, that is the ICI, which is calculated monthly by the Office of Economic Advisor under the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade, which comes under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And this ICI indicates the production performance of the core industries both individually and collectively. Furthermore, these sectors drive industrial performance and have a significant impact on the overall economic development. Now lastly, let's see the summary of India's core infrastructure sector and its performance in the month of December 2024. See, the overall performance of the core sector output grew 4% year on year, slightly lower than the 4.4% in the November month. But additionally, all the 8 core sectors posted higher output than the November. And lastly, the index of core industries is 167.6 points, which is an increase of 6.7% from the November, and also the highest since the May 2024, which had 168.2 points. Now, let's move to the next article. It says that the centre's fiscal deficit touched 56.7% of the annual target at the end of December 2024, according to the data released by the Controller General of the Accounts. Now, in this context, let's talk about the fiscal deficit and other aspects related to it. Firstly, if you look at the fiscal deficit, it refers to the shortfall in a government's revenue when compared to its expenditure. And when a government's expenditure exceeds in its revenues, the government will have to borrow money or sell assets to fund the deficit. Or in simple terms, we can say that fiscal deficit is equals to total expenditure minus total receipts excluding the borrowings. Furthermore, this fiscal deficit reflects the government's borrowing needs, and high fiscal deficit can lead to inflation and a burden. But however, it can be managed through the taxation, expenditure control, or also even through the disbursement. Now, how does it impact? See, when there is a high deficit, it may lead to higher interest rates, inflation, and thereby reducing the private sector investments. And on the other hand, when there is the low deficit, it ensures macroeconomic stability but may reduce government spending on welfare and infrastructure. Further, moving ahead, let's see the next article. It says that the United States Food and Drug Administration on Thursday approved a new type of non-opioid painkiller. Although it is currently quite expensive, costing $15.50 per pill, the medicine is not addictive, unlike the commonly used opioid painkillers. The drug, suzetrigine, will be sold under the brand name Jorvax and manufactured by the US-based Vertex Pharmaceuticals. In this context, let's know about the new opioid painkiller suzetrigine and also know about opioids. Firstly, talking about the medicine suzetrigine, know that the United States Food and Drug Administration recently approved this medicine under the brand name Jorvax, which is a non-opioid painkiller, and it is manufactured by the Vertex Pharmaceuticals, which is a US-based company. Significantly, unlike opioids, this medicine is non-addictive. Now, what are opioids? Know that opioids are a class of drugs derived from or mimicking substances found in the opium poppy plant. For example, the common opioids are oxycodone, morphine, codeine, heroin, fentanyl, etc. Now, if you look at the mechanism of opioids, see, usually they bind to opioid receptors in the brain, blocking pain perception and inducing feelings of pleasure or euphoria. Furthermore, these pleasurable feelings from opioids can cause psychological dependence and addiction. And now, let's again move to the suzetrigine's mechanism of action. See, the pain signals originate from specialized nerve endings, that is the nociceptors in the body, which sends electric signals to the brain via the spinal cord. So this medicine, unlike the other opioids, it interrupts the pain signal transmission before it reaches the brain and targets pain at the signal level, but not at the brain level. And also know that in response to these opioid crises, the US President Donald Trump declared a public health emergency in the year 2017 and made efforts to curb the opioid imports, especially fentanyl from the countries like China and Mexico. So significantly, the approval of the suzetrigine offers a promising non-addictive alternative to the other opioids for the pain management. Now, moving ahead, let's see the next article. It says that rock and dust samples retrieved by the NASA from the asteroid Bennu exhibit some of the chemical building blocks of life according to the new two studies. Now, well, in this context, let's talk about the NASA's asteroid Bennu samples and also see the chemical building blocks of the life. See, back in the year 2020, the NASA's OSIRIS-REx spacecraft collected rock and dust samples from the asteroid Bennu. Now, further in the year 2023, these samples were delivered to the Earth and analyzed, providing significant evidence that asteroids may have played a role in the origin of life on Earth. Now, what exactly did the scientists discover inside the samples? Let's break it down. Firstly, scientists detected 14 out of 20 amino acids that are essential for forming proteins, which are the building blocks of the life on Earth. Secondly, even more exciting is all the 5 nucleobases, which are the key genetic components of the DNA and the RNA, were present in these samples. And also, the samples contain minerals formed from evaporated salty water, hinting that Bennu's parent body once had a watery environment suitable for prebiotic chemistry, which is a fundamental step towards the development of life. Now, why are these findings so important? Well, they provide some of the strongest evidence to date back that space rocks may have delivered the building blocks of life to early Earth. In the early solar system, Earth and other planets were constantly bombarded by the asteroids and space debris rich in water and organic molecules, and these cosmic collisions may have played a very key important role in kickstarting life on our Earth. Now, moving to the last article of the day, it says that Economic Survey for the year 2024-2025 was tabled by the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in Parliament on Friday. And the survey is a report of the state of Indian economy in the financial year that is coming to a close. Now, for those who are unfamiliar, see, the Economic Survey is an annual report on the state of the Indian economy presented before the Union Budget. It provides an in-depth analysis of economic trends, growth forecast, challenges, and policy recommendations for the coming financial year. And now, let's see the highlights of this economic survey. See, this year's economic survey highlighted two major global concerns as pointed out by the Chief Economic Advisor V. Anantha Nageshwaran. First is the global trade and investment slowdown. As the global economy has become increasingly challenging and uncertain, there is a noticeable shift from globalization to trade protectionism, making the global trade and investment more restrictive. Second is the China's manufacturing dominance. See, as China remains the world's largest manufacturing hub, accounting for one third of the global production, more than the next 10 countries combined. However, with economic fragmentation increasing, the world is looking at a reset in the global manufacturing supply chains, which may benefit other countries like India. Now, let's shift our focus to the India's economic performance and future projections. Firstly, the GDP growth outlook. Interestingly, the India's real GDP for the financial year 2025 is projected at 6.4% with an expected range of 6.3% to 6.8% in the financial year 2026. Secondly, the private consumption is on the rise. See, the share of private final consumption expenditure in India's GDP is expected to increase from 60.3% in the financial year 2024 to 61.8% in the financial year 2025, and it is the highest level since the financial year 2003. Lastly, the India's GVA has surpassed pre-pandemic levels and is now close to the decadal average, indicating strong economic recovery. Now, let's see the inflation trends. Firstly, talking about the headline inflation, it is moderating and driven by a decline in core inflation, which is a type of inflation that excludes food and the fuel. And the other is the food inflation, and this rose from 7.5% in the financial year 2024 to 8.4% in the financial year 2025, driven by supply chain disruptions and weather relocated factors. Further, if we see the employment and the labor market, on a positive note, India's labor market is improving with better employment metrics, including the unemployment rate, labor force participation, and also the worker to population ratio. And these improvements are largely due to post-pandemic recovery and increased formalization. Further, the economic survey lays out some important policy recommendations to accelerate the economic growth and boost the industrial activity. Primarily, the survey emphasizes deregulating the economy to spur the economic growth, particularly by simplifying regulations and lowering the cost of doing businesses for the small businesses. And this in turn will lead to job creation, higher income generation, and also the increased consumer demand. Furthermore, the survey stresses the need for enterprise-friendly reforms and highlights the positive correlation between the business reforms and also the industrial activity. But despite India's strong growth, one area of concern remains, that is the production of critical goods. As India faces challenges in producing critical goods at the scale and quality level, it is needed for the infrastructure and investment needs. Further, this is a key area of concern if India wants to maintain economic growth momentum in the future. Lastly, the survey maintains an optimism about India's post-pandemic economic recovery, and it also warns that the business as usual approaches carry the risk of economic stagnation. Therefore, it says that the government must focus on enhancing innovation and competitiveness by getting out of the way of the business. Well, this concludes our session for today. As we discuss 7 articles for the day, and we'll be back with another video tomorrow. Thank you.